Hi and welcome to the No Scrubs podcast. We're your hosts Ife
and Tenni, and the No Scrubs podcast is a time when we speak about what happens inside the hospital, outside the hospital, and everything in between.
So sit back, relax, and listen to us yap about being doctors.
So, hello, welcome. Today we have Miss.
Put some respect on her name, please.
Finally, exams
done. Well,
done.
Some. We still have more.
It's fine. The ones for now.
She's a miss. She's a miss.
She is a miss now.
I am. Hi.
Do you want to introduce yourself to the people?
Yeah, hi. I am Chidera Ota, or Miss Ota, in some situations. I am an ST3 General Surgery Registrar in South London.
Amazing.
Cool. There's much more to you. You also DJ?
I do also DJ.
That is so cool. Sorry, I'm so good.
Love
we need like a playlist
talent.
after this. We need like a...
Oh,
you give us a little Melanin Medics mix. Like
a
mix.
Melanin Medics mix.
I could do a little something. I
That
can
would
do
be
something.
very nice.
Okay. So we want to get to know you a bit better in general.
Okay.
So my first question for you would be, if you had to pick the opening tune for the soundtrack of your life,
Okay.
what would it be?
That's a really difficult one. I think the song that's coming to my head, but it's because I play it basically every single set. It's like my safety song is probably Party Hard by Deneo. I don't know if that's appropriate.
No, that is a good one.
Is that the soundtrack? It's part of my life.
Yeah.
A nice gentle opening.
You're a DJ. That is definitely
It's like
the
setting
soundtrack.
the scene and
Exactly.
then maybe like something chiller in the middle.
I like that.
I don't know.
Tenni, what about you?
Oh, why me next?
Yeah, I want to
Only
get
a
to you
second to
next.
think.
I've already thought about my answer. I already know.
Okay, I think I'd have to go for Kendrick, Count Me Out.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
Set the scene.
Feels-
We've got like a
more.
nice range so
Yeah.
far. Mine would be, this is no surprise to anybody. If you know me, you know who I'm going to choose. Mine's going to be Beyonce.
Oh, here we go.
Diva.
Okay.
Can you imagine that? Like, starting the top. Yeah, it works. It works so well.
Yours is giving Boss Babe vibes,
Yeah.
very much so.
Mine is giving very unserious.
Yeah, but I love that. I don't...
You got this. Okay. Next question is, if you were to have your star name, it could be you, it could be a band, it could be a duo.
Okay.
What is your group or soloist name?
The thing is, I thought about this like even when I started DJing. I really like my name.
Okay.
Aw.
Like I like the meaning of my name a lot. So I would probably still go by like my DJ name, which is Chidera O or Chidera.
What does your name mean?
Basically what God has written, no man can unwrite.
Ooh,
I
that
feel
is
like
powerful.
My parents like bars.
That is so good. Okay,
That's
damn.
beautiful.
Okay, so what was it again?
It's your 10. It's
I
what would
can't
your...
think.
You can either be a soloist, you can be like in a little duo, or you can be in a group. What is your group or solo name?
I'm trying to think. Nothing can compare to Destiny's Child. You know what I mean? Like,
Let
I'm
her
sorry.
breathe.
oh, I can't think. Sorry, guys. I'm stalling here.
Stalling. Let me do
You
a little
go
story
first.
time whilst you stall.
Yeah, you
Okay.
do a little. Let me think.
Like, I don't know what your unis were like, but I went to uni in like Exeter.
Okay.
Every anaesthetist was in a band. It was
Oh.
so, and they always would play their band's music
Oh my God.
in the operating theatre. You're like, I wish I had some choice in this situation. I don't want to listen to your band.
The thing is, I'm kind of excited to be a consultant and finally like
Choose.
have control of the playlist and be like, we will be listening to my mix
We'll be listening to Party Hard.
for this
Party
Party
Hard.
Hard.
As you do
our
first.
operation. It
Party
will be-
Hard. Nice to skin. Party Hard starts playing.
Can you stop playing the same song? No, we're keeping it
Just the
on.
one on there.
Okay, I think mine is gonna be the Goldilocks.
The
I
gold.
just made that up, and we're all gonna have like blonde braids
Oh, wow.
all the time. That's like our signature look.
I'm not sure I can pull off a blonde braid.
You can. Everyone can.
I can't lie, I was going for my photos and I did a blonde braid in December,
Yeah.
Nigeria, and I was like, I need to run this back.
Yeah.
Can I join your group?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
So, I haven't thought about mine in its entirety, but Tenni's obviously already taken. Unfortunately, I can't go for
and
my
that is a
name.
good one.
But you know, there was that like trend where I was like, the Clique.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't mind my group being called the Clique.
That's
The
cute.
Click is pretty good. And you can start every song with like a
Yeah.
click. I like that. You can tell we're not musicians.
You can tell we're not serious.
I mean, even just I'm not a musician and I'm also not serious. So.
Okay, win-win.
We're good. We're good.
Exactly.
So we know you love Deneo Party Hard,
Yes.
but you are now a consultant in the operating theatre. Your
Okay.
list is about to start, but everyone's vibes are on the floor. And keep in mind, we live in a very multicultural society, in the sense that Party Hard might not get the party started for the whole theatre.
Okay.
What song are you choosing to bring the vibes up in theatre?
So, on the occasion that I do get to pick my own playlist, I normally either pick just like a piano playlist, which no one really... There's a few nurses and other people who might know some of the music from it, but I just like the kind of how rhythmic it is, you know, like kind of repetitive, kind of chill, nothing's going to kind of jump out at you. Or I really like sort of like a noughties, 90s R&B.
Yeah.
Pop. So like a Anastasia, I'm Out of Love, like a... Actually, even like Gwen Stefani, Pussycat Dolls, like that sort of thing, which is, you can sing along a little bit, but it's actually not as high energy as you think it is a lot of the time. So that's my kind of go-to. First song probably would be Destiny's Child.
Thank you.
Like, honestly, like Say My Name or something, where like probably everybody in the room will be like, okay, this is the tune.
But the thing is, I
settle
don't
it.
think I could have that in my... I would be dancing. Do you know, I would not be paying attention. I'd just be like...
You're now going to have to get a joint obs and gynae Gen surgery.
Yeah,
So you guys
literally.
can chill together.
That would be so good.
Okay.
My song... Is it a song or like...
It's the song to get the vibes up in theatre, because everyone's just dragging.
I actually would play Michael Jackson.
Ooh, that's good.
Which song?
I want to say Rock With You, but I don't feel like that's the song title. What's it
I know what
called?
song
I might
it's
know
talking
it.
about.
yeah, I
Is
know
it
what
not
you
called
mean.
Rock With You?
Perhaps. Guys, if we're wrong, let me know. I think it is.
Okay, let's go
Rock
for
With
that.
You. I
Okay.
love that song. That would be
Win.
mine.
Okay, I'd go to your theatres.
Yeah, thank you.
Mine would be like noughties or like
Yeah.
I'm always a noughties 90s. I like to sing. I will sing in theatre.
I definitely like hum. I might tap a foot depending if it's on near diathermy or not. But it's like it works.
Yeah.
And it's just like everyone kind of will know some of the songs.
Yeah. Mine would be Want It That Way, Backstreet Boys.
Okay,
Yeah.
I would be like,
Everyone would be singing. You'd have like
Trust
literally a
me.
choir in
But
that
you might
room.
start like there might be a little bit of
too much.
You know what I mean?
Like, hold the scalpel still. Now I got this.
You get the scrub nurses, everyone in that room.
Half our patients are awake anyway, because we do a lot of local anaesthetic cases. So we'll probably have the patient popping in the corner.
that's
saying,
so true.
To be fair, C-section, she like half of her.
There we go.
She'll be awake as well. Like,
honestly
that's
don't know.
Baby come out like, woo!
I don't know how you do that. The idea of patients I'm glad mine are very still and asleep.
You do some cases local anaesthetic.
Very, very, very rarely.
like a nice little abscess.
Yeah.
Or hernia.
Even hernias I don't do
You don't
awake
do
that
any-
often.
okay.
Yeah. And it's because when they move it's quite there's quite a few important things.
Yeah, it's
Nearby.
stay still.
Why did you choose Gen Surg?
It was kind of by accident, if I'm honest. So the whole way through medical school, I thought I wanted to do neuroscience and then neurology, and then realised I like surgery. So then I was like, well, then you put the two together, you get neurosurgery, obviously. But never actually got to do much neurosurgery. So did like some research bits that you could find at uni. I was at Cambridge, so I met with a few of the consultants there and did some stuff with them. And then when I moved here, there weren't many foundation jobs because I went to Northwest London. For F1, F2. There weren't many jobs that had neurosurgery in them. There were only 2, and I didn't like any of the other jobs in them. So I wound up just picking a hospital with jobs that I liked that had neurosurgery there. So I was at St Mary's, which was a trauma centre and has neurosurgeons there. And so kind of got to meet them and did lots of little trauma like audits and things like that with them, but again didn't have much actual neurosurgery experience, but they were really great. And so when I got to the end of F2, they then helped me set up an F3 that was half neurosurgery, half major trauma, because you can kind of time out if you get too much neurosurgery experience, and most people apply twice if not 3-4 times, so you don't want to get too much. So I did 6 months of neurosurgery, and honestly it was kind of a little bit heartbreaking because then I kind of realised I didn't like it very much. And it's been...
Why didn't you like it?
I think, weirdly, I had this idea of what surgery is, and it was being very, like, physically involved in this operation where you're, like, going through different tissues and, you know, removing these huge specimens, etc. I think essentially what I actually thought surgery was general surgery. And I liked the acuity of the little bits of neurosurgery that I saw at St Mary's, but actually with loads of different places, actually elective work is the main bulk of what you do. And outside of sort of burr holes or emergency craniotomies, I just didn't click with a lot of the other operations. And I kind of realised towards the end of that placement that I was actively avoiding going to theatre. which isn't normally a good sign if you want to go into that surgical specialty, because it's kind of the thing that should be the best part of the job. So then I was lucky. I had the 6 months of major trauma, which included some neurosurgery, but also included like cardiothoracics, plastics, general surgery. And it was through that I realised that actually general surgery, had lots of the acuity and the trauma that I really liked, but I also really liked like being elbows deep in the elective like cancer work and stuff. You look so
Sorry, no, I'm
elbows deep.
Flashbacks to like colorectal theatre with hands up back passages,
but I don't.
Like, stool in the air.
I know, but I don't mind it, because I'm like, in my head it was like, okay, this is what I thought surgery would be like I'm working with vessels and bowel and loads of different organs, and it just kind of made sense. So then I applied for core, and my first job for core training was colorectal, and that was honestly like the best year of my life. And I'm actually going to work with those people that I met. That was at Chelsea in the PhD come October.
Nice.
And just
you're doing a PhD?
Yeah.
Girl.
I was going to say, do you have any other like things going on? Like, you've got DJing, you're a set, and now you've got PhD going. Okay, cool. You're cool.
I'm tired. It's the main thing. But it was, I kind of fell into it by having a sort of backup option that opened my eyes to other things. So even now when I meet people who like get to the end of F2 or whatever, and they're like, I don't know what I want to do. It was like, I did an F3 and F4 because I didn't know. And then when I did know, I was like, I actually have to take time to like get the stuff,
get ready,
get stuff in place so I can actually apply. So, and now I'm fine.
And now
I
you're
got my reg job.
SC3 in Gen
That's amazing.
It's so good.
Thank you.
So how do you find it? Like, it's obviously being a reg is new for you.
Very new.
It can be quite stressful. Like, you're taking on new roles and new responsibilities. How are you finding it?
I'm actually really enjoying it. I think I've kind of found my swing with things now. I will be very honest, I was so anxious when I first started, to the point that like at the induction, we're all friends now, but the reg was like, do you have any more questions? Like, how many questions can you ask me about like what it's like to be a reg? But I was nervous because because I'd taken time out. I'd actually been an SHO for ages, so I was very confident in my ability to be working at that level, and I'd done things to step up, etc. But even when I was stepping up, I was doing that with knowing that there was someone in the background who could sort things out, and I felt I trusted myself clinically, but operatively, in London you don't typically get as much exposure. I was worried that I just wouldn't be able to do what I needed to do as an ST3, because when you're in a reg job, there's no sort of junior reg or senior reg, you're just in the reg job. And so I might be working with consultants who are used to working with people who are a year away from CCTing, and I'm like, hey, I just got here. And then when I found out I was in South London, I spoke to my training program director, and I said I want to go to like a nice little DGH, no trauma centre. I've always been kind of at trauma centres or fairly central, but like a nice small place where there's loads of, everyone's really hands-on, etc. She sent me to St George's, which is like the second largest hospital in Europe or something silly. But actually, it was a blessing in disguise, and I think I've been so well looked after, and it's had such a huge impact on my like confidence and ability to operate. So yeah, I feel better now, but I was terrified.
Yeah, I think I hear it, because obviously I started ST3 this year as well. And I'd taken 6 months off being clinical at all, and I then gone into like reg life, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm the one making the decisions now.
People are asking me questions, and I'm like,
they're like, you're the boss. And I'm like, no.
You're the boss. I can go ask an adult if you'd like.
Yeah, no, it's scary.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm still definitely like getting into the swing of it all. But
we've got time. Technically, we've got like, I've probably got about a decade until I finish now.
Yeah, because of your PhD. Wow. Yeah. No, it's amazing. So you're finding that you're managing the stress okay?
I think I am. I made this year a bit difficult for myself because basically I'm a planner, and so I knew I wanted to be specifically in South London, and there aren't that many London jobs and there aren't that many South London jobs, and I didn't know how I would compare to everybody else who was applying, because as we all know, everything is massively oversubscribed and there are no jobs. And so this PhD was offered to me in CT2. So in my head I was kind of applying as like a practice run, just to see what it was like. And then I was going to start my PhD in October. Then I got my job, and I was like,
okay,
I don't know what I'm doing. And I asked, could I postpone starting ST3? And they said, no, either you take your number and then take time out later, or you give up the number. And I was like, well, there's no way.
Yeah.
They give you no choice.
I got my perfect number. They like you to do at least a year. So then they said, okay, what we can do is drop you down to 80%. So basically I have 20% protected research time, where I kind of try to keep things trundling along with the research in the hope that I can kind of start full pelt in October. And that the NHS is, I don't know if anyone who works less than full time has found that the less than full time is really less than full time.
That's what everyone says.
Like, you're still in all the time.
I mean, 80% is technically 80% of an NHS surgical contract is technically, I think, what full time counts as.
It's like other jobs, right?
Yeah. And then don't you think about all the hours you come in early, all of the stuff you have to do outside of work. Yeah. So I honestly think actually after my PhD, I don't think I'll go back to 100%, because actually that 20% is useful for just the everything else that is not what you're doing within hours of the job. And then the research stuff is actually starting to really take off. So that's taking way more than 20%. So like I was working on it before I came here. When I leave, I'll go do some more. So I've made life a bit difficult for myself for a year, but at least from October, I'll be doing that full time and I can just focus on it for a while.
What's your research?
It's a really sexy topic.
Oh, you had it here first.
Basically, looking at anogenital cancer.
It is a sexy topic.
Very sexy.
Very sexy.
But it's a kind of it's quite cool. So it's looking at. I mean, I don't. How scientific can we get?
Get scientific.
Yeah, I'm sure I can remember some science.
No, I mean, for everybody else, you mean us. And just in general. So basically, looking at sort of pre-cancer and cancer, taking samples of both, trying to look at the sort of difference in immunogenetic expression to see if there's something that changes that makes something move from pre-cancer to cancer, and if we can then target that with...
That's so interesting.
A vaccine, for example.
Actually helping people.
I love that.
But also, I mean, I'll say this as someone who like barely understood what this project was, and even now I'm a bit...
No, this is like Nobel Peace Prize.
Okay.
So you're going to be in the lab.
You know what I mean?
So in the lab...
Pipetting.
I've been pipetting this year. I'm so bad at pipetting. I have little to no wet lab experience. I'm realising now I'm not good at certain things. I have to use like liquid nitrogen a lot, which I'm very scared of.
Yeah.
They're always like, this could kill you. And I'm like, okay.
Sure.
But yeah, it's really fun. And I think it's made me realise now like how little most people know about their PhDs before they go into it. Like I'm talking to friends who've done this before and I'm like, I feel like I don't know what's happening. And they're like, no one does until you like finish. Until you get to the end and you're like, oh, is that what we were? But it's really exciting and it's good to have like I guess another mini break, because I basically haven't taken time away from being clinical since my F4, which is a non-clinical year.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're having those bits of breaks, but in terms of then your like free time, quote unquote, DJing.
Yes.
How do you find DJing has kind of impacted your surgical lifestyle?
So I think it's changed a lot since starting reg training, I will say that. I DJed a lot more, for example, when I was in my years out in F3 and F4, particularly my F4 year.
Yeah.
I was basically a teaching fellow, so my hours were far more forgiving. So I was doing like, sorry, I keep knocking the microphone, apologies. But I would do like multiple gigs a week.
Mad.
Because I could then, because I was working sort of essentially a 9 to 5.
But then when would the gig start?
So, for example, if I did a Friday and a Saturday, or maybe even a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it was fun. I'd be tired.
Yeah.
But also, it was like, that was at the point when I had just come out of COVID. We had all just come out of COVID, it was me personally.
Just you.
But we had just come out of COVID. I was so excited to be outside again. A big part of why I started DJing is because I like first started going out more when I moved to London for F1 and was like, this is amazing.
Is that when you started
Yeah.
F1?
So as soon as COVID ended, I was like, anytime I have an excuse to be outside, I'll go. And I made loads of friends through DJing, so we'd go to each other's gigs.
Oh, nice.
And so it was just super fun. I will say I've cut back massively now, particularly since October, just because I'm tired. I'm doing basically like 1.5 jobs at the moment with regard to the research. And so it's a bit harder. I still have nights that I go to, but I think like most DJs that you meet will know that you have gigs that you go to that you're super, super, super excited for. And then the ones that you go to just because it's like, it's good practice or it's good exposure or like you have a free Saturday and you might as well. So I've cut back a lot more on sort of those ones.
How often roughly now?
I mean, now it's probably every few months.
Right.
Occasionally like every other month, but that's going from doing like multiple a week. So it's a big difference. But it means, it's not my full-time job, so I think I'm lucky to have the I guess I can say like I'm only going to do the gigs that I really, really want to do.
Yeah.
I'm not having to sort of be a jobbing DJ the way that I was when I first started, and was like literally anything. I was doing like pubs where like people were like, can you turn the music down? Those are the like gigs I was doing right at the beginning. Whereas now it's like often headlining at like nights where I'm a resident at, and it's that's way more enjoyable because it's like I really enjoy those. I get a lot more from it.
Yeah. How did you even learn how to DJ? Because I actually tried. So I try a lot of things.
Yes.
COVID times, I was like, do you know what? I could
basically that was what I did.
So I downloaded like, I don't know, some kind of It's hard, guys. That's all I gave up. I think I spent like I started in final year of med school. So I was really bored. I integrated, none of my friends did. So they had all graduated. And I was bored and I was lonely, and I was like, let me try being a DJ.
Did you have a DJ name?
I didn't actually.
Okay.
I didn't get there. I didn't get that far. But now, I don't know, I want to pick it up again.
It's super fun, and I think I wish I'd done it earlier, because now I'm obviously having to taper off a little bit, so I'm sad. But I basically started... So, yeah, when I moved to London in F1, I always laughed because I was one of those girls at 10 if I was like, I don't really like clubbing. I don't really like going out. Like, I prefer a brunch, which is still, I love a brunch. It's fine. But then my friends who like lived here or went to uni here, started taking me out. And I was like, oh, I didn't like clubbing because I went to Cambridge and they used to play Lion King theme tune in the club, and that was not good. And now they're playing like actual music, and it's
that
super
is literally
fun.
giving me PTSD. I was at Durham.
Yeah, same vibe.
Yeah.
And it was the same playlist for like 3 years.
Exeter, we had Fridays that had good music.
We had
Every other
Thursdays.
night.
So we had Thursdays.
There was like one black night.
Yeah, ours was every other week. We had a Thursday
Exactly.
every other. What was it called again? I can't remember. But every Thursday every other week, that was like
But it was like the one,
and it was like
one
the same, like Chris Brown, Tiger.
even then it's like they never. I was
same
like,
switch
do you
out.
have a DJ or is it just a running playlist?
I think
that you
it's a
have?
running playlist.
You would have been so good for your debut, like,
Can you imagine?
in Cambridge.
Honestly.
So yeah, when I got here, I really liked it, and then obviously COVID hit, and I was like, oh, I can't go out anymore. So then my housemates and I at the time used to do this thing where we like watch Boiler Rooms.
Boiler Room, Kate on
like
Boiler
DJs
Room.
That, yeah, so Kate
Honourable
we watched a
honourable
lot.
mention.
Jotty we watched a lot, which was
Love
like
her.
a big thing for me because I then did like one of her first homegrowns in London.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
Oh my god, you're a
she's-
celebrity here, guys.
No.
That is so cool.
But it was, so basically just pre-COVID, I'd been doing this thing with my friends where we were like, we have to make the most of living in London. So anytime there was like a random like theatre night or something, we would go. And I'd done a random DJ experience with, I think it was Girls Can't DJ. So like George, who's like an amazing DJ, I think like one of the best DJs in London, if not the world, did this thing where she like taught a few of us. And it's where I met one of my best friends actually. And it was like, I swear, like the week before lockdown. And then lockdown happened. I'm at home watching these Boiler Rooms. I'm like, well, I've done this little class, and I'm like watching these people. I'm like starting to kind of understand a little bit about like what they're doing, but I want to know. So I bought this like little controller that was basically a step up from like a kid's toy. It was so small, and like it came with like little YouTube videos that you could watch. You could connect your phone to it. It would show you how to like blend and stuff.
No way.
I was like, this is so fun. So I was like making little mixes where I'd send them to like my friends and stuff, and then. Again, because we were all home, well, not home, I was working, but I did this weird thing. It was like 2 days, 2 nights, and you had 3 days, nothing. So that in those 3 days, I would just, exercise, doing Body by Kiera, which I think everyone was doing, just like jumping up and down, doing burpees in my house. And then I would just like make these little mixes, which I started just sending to people, which I think was like the bravery of ignorance.
I feel like that, you know, when you're like, I don't know if people do it anymore, but you know, people on the street just give out their mixtape.
Yeah,
it's literally giving that. It's giving like,
Instagram
guys,
equivalent.
listen to my.
But like people that I'm like, now I look back, I'm like, Jesus, who were you messaging? Just DMing, again, DM Jotty. I was like, hey, I really like your Boiler Room. I made like a
people like that.
And did she respond?
Yes. And she was like, do you want to do a mix for my show?
No.
Well done you.
And like, Recess did the radio station.
Yeah. No signal.
No signal. Yeah, I just was like, hey, I've got a mix. Do you want it? And they were like, okay, sure. I was just doing this, and like people were like being so nice and responsive, which I don't know if it was just COVID. We were all at home. We were like, I guess I will respond. Like, why not?
I've got nothing
This
else
random
to do,
girl
yeah.
from like nowhere who's like been to one of my shows is like, hey, I've made a mix. Listen to it. Do you have any feedback? And so weirdly, then by the end of COVID, I'd actually kind of built up a little bit of like a network, I guess, of like friends and acquaintances and people who I'd done like guest mix for their shows and stuff. And so when things ended and, you know, things started to open up, they'd be like, oh, do you want to open for this? Or like, you can do the early set here.
That's so good.
And then it just kind of
It's just natural.
became a thing. Yeah.
Very
It's
natural.
nice.
I love that. I want to be a DJ now.
Do it.
Listening to this, I'm just like, I need to get myself.
I think
Get myself
Just, like,
together.
follow the playbook now.
Yeah.
I think honestly I do think a huge part of it is networking, which is actually a thing I'm not very good at. And so I think COVID weirdly helped me because it made me slightly braver, because I was just like DMing people and not having to be like, hey.
That's true.
But yeah, just like going to events, putting yourself out there. There are always so many workshops, and I would go to them always. Again, I met one of my best friends there. I met George there, and she gave me so many opportunities like throughout my career. So like that, it just, yeah.
So cool. Do you find then that anything like, or any skills that you've learnt from DJing have then benefited you? Obviously, use your hands as a surgeon.
I think a big one is like, I'm quite an anxious person, so I struggled with anxiety like a lot through university. It had a huge impact on especially the last few years. And I think when I started DJing again, it was all, I was doing online things. I was doing for online radio shows, and so I think prior to things opening out, I hadn't really considered what it would be like to play in front of people. And I remember my first gig actually wanting to just message them and say, I've got COVID, like, don't worry. I can't come.
Yeah.
But I think repeatedly putting myself in those experiences where I'm kind of, I've signed up to do this, I'm being paid to do this, and if I don't do it, there's going to be silence for an hour, has actually really weirdly helped me with my anxiety. And I think that's also helped with my performance at work, particularly with operating and stuff. I've learned to manage elements of my nervousness, or I know people who know me will be like, no, you haven't. But it was worse before, I swear.
You know when people say, they're like, no, you're still anxious. I'm like, trust me,
you don't know what it was like before.
Do you know what I mean?
Hey.
Yeah. So I think that was a big thing, like just like confidence and kind of zoning out, focusing on your task and being like, okay, I know I feel nervous, but just like, it started now, just press play and just get going.
Yeah.
And especially at the beginning, you could tell that I was just like in that zone because I used to never look up. Like now people expect DJs to kind of like interact with you.
Oh yeah, like the South African scene.
Yeah, I mean, when people started dancing, I was like, oh, I'm in trouble.
This is like beyond my capability now.
Like, I was like, no one.
I can click for you guys if you like.
I feel like Uncle Waffles has now changed. I feel like she does,
the
when
whole
I
thing
see
for
her,
me.
she does more dancing than DJing.
I'm like,
she's a dancer now.
And she's actually a really good DJ as well. So I'm like, well then I have half of one of these skills and I cannot dance. It's a big part of why I liked this, because I could stand in the back in the dark behind, and now we're like on stages often like facing the crowd, and so I used to literally not look up or make eye contact.
No, you need to engage with the crowd.
I'm a lot better now, but it was like there are clips that my friends have of like recordings of me at my first ones where my friends is shouting, Chidera, look up.
Engage us, bring us into
like can you act like you want to be here?
But you know what, that is a really good way to build your confidence, because you, like you said, like if you don't turn up, there's an hour of silence.
It's actually by force.
But now you need to do a bit of performance as well.
Yeah, so like,
you kind of had, and
I look up kind of like smile awkwardly like
done now.
That is so, that's such a cool, how do you manage so now you don't do it as often, right? But how do you miss it?
I miss it a lot. I think especially like I made loads of DJ friends sort of at the beginning when I was doing it, and I have friends who've kind of done the same as me, where maybe it wasn't their primary thing that they were working on. They had like other careers, etc. And so they've kind of pulled back a lot. And then I have other friends who are like, no, actually I'm really going to do this, and this is going to be my thing. And so watching them progress, sometimes I'm a bit like, I wish I'd been able to dedicate a bit more time to this. Like there was definitely a point where I was like, things are really like moving forward, and I was like, I'm saying no to a lot of opportunities because of work. And so sometimes I do really miss it. But then on the other hand, like I do actually think, like I love operating a lot. It's really, really, really sad how much joy being a surgeon brings me. And I know that long term, it's going to be a big part of what I want to do with my life. So I think I'm going to keep DJing here and there. And then if for example, during my PhD, I have a bit more time and I can do more, maybe. But if not, I think it's just a balance. I can't do everything.
Yeah.
And I just have to kind of shift my priorities
as it goes,
as is appropriate.
Yeah.
So what advice then would you give to someone who maybe has like a really creative hobby or something they were interested in, or someone who wants to get into DJing? What kind of advice would you give them about starting out?
So I think I've always been really big on like not making medicine my whole life. I've not been so good at doing that recently. And again, no one should at me if they hear me say this. But I do think having outside interests, even if they're just simple hobbies, is important.
Agreed.
I do think one of the maybe bad things I did with DJing is I did actually start to approach it the same way I was approaching my medical career. And it was, I started at the time when I was thinking about like job applications and stuff. So I was going like hard with both. So putting myself out there all the time with DJing and being really like harsh with critique of like how I've done, like what gigs I'm getting, in the same way that I was being like, you know, I haven't done enough audits or I don't have enough publications. I do think if you want to have a creative thing, and it's the thing I do now, it's meant to be fun. It's meant to be an outlet.
Yeah.
It should be enjoyable. And if you stop enjoying it, you need to think about why that is, because you can't add extra stress onto the plate that's already pretty full from whatever medicine in the NHS is. But I do think it's important to have something else, because I think particularly with surgery, like you can have very good days, you can have absolutely terrible days, and I think if you use your job to define yourself, those terrible days will then also define how you see yourself, and it can be very difficult to pull back from that. I think being able to like go into a completely different space where I'm valued for like skills that actually, some things cross over, but a lot of them have nothing to do with it. It's a completely different side of my personality in some aspects, has been really valuable for me. So try to keep the two, I wouldn't say like separate, but like remember that this is serving a slightly different purpose, and your attitude towards it should be, keep that in mind.
Yeah, should match that. Do your colleagues know that you DJ?
They actually do. I think it's weird because I think I used to try to keep my life slightly more separate, particularly after F1, because I think when F1 it's kind of like freshes again. And then after that I kind of, because you move around a lot, I guess was maybe slightly more reserved at work. But I think through virtue of the fact that like when I got into Reg training I was so nervous, I've been very I've built quite like good friendships with the people that I work with, because I just think it's been absolutely like necessary for me to survive the job. Which means that they know like other things about elements of my life. I don't know that I've invited anyone
to a gig or any.
Actually, no, I have one friend who's come to a gig who's from like medicine. And I don't mind really. But I do think sometimes people are a bit surprised. I'm like, why are you surprised? Like, what was I giving?
I think it's because like it's so different from being a doctor. Like it's like you said, we said earlier, like when you think about DJ, you think of like late nights, kind of unserious, kind of like wilder lifestyle. Then comparing that to like being a surgeon, it's just like, oh, they work really hard, they're so smart, they're so like focused.
But I think elements of it are really similar. So the shift work.
True.
I mean, late nights regardless.
Yeah,
whichever job I'm
true.
doing. And like I think particularly when you meet surgeons and like ones who are like really really in love with their specialty or their subspecialty, and you see how much they like apply themselves to it. My friends who are really passionate DJs have the same attitude towards music. It's the same like crate digging, trying to find new songs, practicing transitions, the same way that I'll be sat at like a simulator machine practicing laparoscopic surgery. Like it's literally the same, really similar attitude. So I mean, you were saying before, like, what things cross over. There's actually lots of things that are really similar between the two types of people. Obviously, there are elements that are quite different.
Of course.
But, yeah, I think, to me, it makes perfect sense. But, yeah.
Do you know what you said earlier about not just wanting to be a medic really resonated with me? I feel like that's something that I've held on to since medical school, because I just thought, you know, you're in medical school and it's just like medics who are just all about medicine. I just look at them like, do you not have anything else that you're interested?
That was a big part of, weirdly, that was a big part of my personality at medical school, was being like, I'm not just a medic.
Me too. Oh my God, that was
I do
really
other things. And I think it helped that, probably the same with you, that if you're at collegiate university, actually you spend a lot of time with other non-medics. Like some of my friends who went to like London unis, for example, it felt like their medical school was almost like it's a university in its own right, and they had their own sports teams or whatever. But for me,
ours was like colleges, like college sports teams, college.
So for me,
things,
it was like most of my things either happened through like uni sports that I did, uni societies that I did, or like the college where most of my good close friends were, which the vast majority weren't actually medics.
Same,
It was when they all graduated, I was like, oh God.
You know, when they left, I was like, damn, like
you guys actually really left me here.
Yeah.
Okay, no worries.
Get with the program. You gain your medic friends and your non-medic friends, so you're not lonely at the end.
I did not have many medic friends.
Make medic friends until foundation.
Oh wow.
I didn't make it until like maybe final year, like fourth year perhaps, but like we're not friends now.
Really?
Like from medical school, not really.
There were people I got on with, but it felt like I think particularly because they've stopped it now, but in my year, half the year used to leave.
And go to Imperial,
London, or
we had something similar to this, yeah.
And so most of the few people that I was good friends with all went to London. And to be honest, I wanted to, but my dad said no.
It's not happening, babe.
He said you'll carry Cambridge on your head. You'll stay here and you'll get that degree.
It's so impressive they're going to Cambridge.
I mean, it's fine.
It's clout worthy.
I even feel embarrassed when I say Durham. I'm like,
no,
it's not like Oxford or Cambridge. You know what I mean? It's like the reject.
I feel like one of the cool things about medicine is it does nothing. It actually does nothing. Like even from foundation, like apart from maybe like in conversations with people, but no part of the application will that get me anything
at all.
No,
at all.
Which is actually kind of nice.
It's clout among people that aren't in the medical.
Yeah. Everyone else is like, and so, how many appendixes did you do?
Yeah. No. Okay. I have got a question from one of our listeners.
We have a new segment.
Jesus. Oh yes,
it's called Dear Doctor.
Dear Doctor.
Okay, so I get a few people messaging me asking for advice. I don't know if you do as well, like on socials.
Do.
Yeah,
that's why I used to have a YouTube channel, which is so embarrassing.
YouTuber, doctor, DJ.
The videos are gone. You will not find them. They were wiped from the internet.
That is so funny.
Oh, it's just. I was really shy. I was really anxious.
Okay.
So my friends were like, we can't hear you. I'd be like, hi guys, welcome to the channel.
Do you know what? I actually watch your YouTube. Now you're like, it's unlocking your memory in my brain.
I remember the first night out of F1 after induction, and I got a little bit merry. And someone walked up to me from Imperial Medical School and was like, oh my God, I watch you on YouTube. And I was like, I can't see, first of all. Like,
wait, what was one of your videos about? Like, was it about like getting into medical school?
So the first one I made was getting into medical school.
I remember
because I was tired of my parents giving my phone number to different relatives who would then call me and say, how does my daughter get into medical school? I said, look, there's a 20-minute video.
Take notes. In fact,
there's 4 different parts. And we cover everything clearly. And I'm whispering. I know. I'm scared.
The volume up, girl.
There are no more questions.
That is crazy. Okay, so we've got Dear Doctor. Tenni, you're going to read our first one.
Okay, so Dear Doctor.
I actually love it.
So our first Dear Doctor is, Dear Doctor, I applied for core surgical training this year. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I wasn't successful through the round of applications. The locum scene currently is dire. There are no jobs for me to pick up. I don't know what to do. Where's the money coming from? Where's the next stage of my training? I don't know. To the floor.
Before we answer, is that it? Don't you think it's crazy? Like, I've seen so many doctors on social media just being like, I'm unemployed. I'm going to be unemployed from August.
Crazy.
And I'm just like, damn. It's wild.
Sorry, I just hiccuped.
Like,
sorry, I hope everyone heard that.
People go into medicine. Well, back in the day, but true, back in the day, like when we applied, we were like, yep, sorted for life. Do you know what I mean?
It was a big part of why. I mean, I eventually wound up loving it, but a big part of why my parents really wanted me and my sister to do medicine or dentistry was they were like, you will have a job forever. You will always be employed. And that's like...
But now it's like, there might be some time when you're not, actually.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because it's not like hospitals, departments don't need doctors. They need them.
We need everybody.
They just don't want to pay for them.
It's actually insane.
It's insane because I've never worked anywhere where I felt, we are too well staffed.
I've never ever experienced
some people home.
And it's crazy. But yeah, that the Dear Doctor dilemma of the day, I understand.
I hear it.
I feel like a lot of people are going through that, or we've have been there before.
Yeah, I mean, it's why I'm now in my situation because I dual plan / triple plan for every
eventuality.
Because I was nervous. It was and that was a few years ago, as I'm so old. But yeah, it's becoming even more of a reality now for lots of junior doctors, and it's really, really, really awful. I think my biggest piece of advice would be looking at your application and working out sort of where you may have fallen short. So that was my attitude sort of even prior to applying, is I used to regularly check the sort of
checklist.
Yes.
Yeah. When I was in F1, one of the consultants was like, print out the criteria and stick it on your wall.
Yes.
The first thing you look at every day is where am I?
Because you have, and you get these like different portfolios, like foundation portfolio or surgical training portfolio. Those are just tick box exercises. What should be guiding what you do in the year is essentially that, and do it with a grain of salt, because as we are aware, they will change that specification at any point in the year, at any point in the application. But it's a really good guide for working out, okay, also what do I do next? So for example, when I decided I wanted to do general surgery, and this was at the end of my F3 essentially, I knew that where I had the biggest gap was my education section. So it was an area where I'd done a few things, and by that point I'd actually done a few things with Melanin Medics, which was a bit, actually got me loads of points, so thanks so much.
You're welcome.
I knew it was that, and it was audits where I kind of fell short. So I wanted to find a job where I'd find time to do that, and time to do exams as well. So that's why I then did a teaching fellow job, which was entirely non-clinical and had pretty good hours and left me loads of time to get a PG cert in medical education, which was covered by the job, so they paid for it, which was a huge thing. Because they're very expensive, and also gave me time to revise. So that's kind of been the way that I've structured each year. I've actually taken my foot off the gas a little bit this year because I'm kind of like, I'm tired. But it was how I planned what I needed to do. So for example, if you're looking at your CV for core and you're thinking, actually, I don't have quite enough operations, for example, then trying to find like a clinical fellow job is more useful, because it means you might get regular exposure in theatre. And also talk to people who have worked those jobs, because they vary in exposure and what's expected of you. I was really lucky even in core, but I've met people who have done other core jobs where their experience was entirely like the complete opposite of what I had,
or like completely out of theatres, doing runarounds,
just
rather than
ward jobs, whatever,
operating.
I
think it is difficult. I haven't heard of quite a few people, especially those who are like internationally trained. Their jobs, their stay in the UK is dependent on them having a job,
which is
and
terrifying.
then because there's no job, their visas denied, which is crazy. I feel like it's kind of a situation where we need to kind of wait for the UK to realise that what they're doing is not sustainable, because people are all fighting now over very few locums and very few roles. It's not beneficial for patients, it's not beneficial for training, and not beneficial for the future workforce. So I think we're getting into quite a nasty pickle.
We are. I think for the listener or whoever it was that submitted that dilemma, just find comfort in the fact that like you're not the only one. There are so many people who are in that situation or who have been in that situation, and as unfortunate as it is, you just kind of have to roll with it. Do you know what I mean? You can't just like,
the issue is the financial aspect though. Who's paying the bills?
What I would say is
join an
that
agency, I'd say
either A, join an agency, and there are loads of them, or B, like really have, because where are we now, April, start having conversations with the people that you work with. Unfortunately, a lot of junior clinical fellow jobs there can be elements of nepotism in getting them, in that you're more likely to get that job if you've worked at the hospital before, if you know the team before and they like you. So I would really start having conversations with those teams in your hospitals, doing a taster week or doing something to be like, hey, I really want to do the specialty. I don't have a training number, but I'd love to gain some exposure with you. Lots of hospitals do create these sort of junior clinical fellow positions where they almost mirror core surgical training. And for some people, they do those and skip core and actually just apply straight to a specialty. So trying to find something like that will A, give you some security, and B, hopefully get you some good training and things to sort of improve your CV.
So maybe you can use the networking skills that you get from your part-time DJing hustle,
which I lack,
to be able to speak to the departments, and maybe just try and get your foot in doors. So network, make friends, make connections, and try and use that to your benefit. You be the Nepo baby.
Be the Nepo baby.
And just be willing to travel. I always say this to people, like, be willing.
That's a big thing.
I understand what you mean, that like the financial aspects and things like that, and obviously I've been in a similar situation, but it's like, unfortunately, doctors are not exempt. Like, people don't have jobs all the time or get made redundant. They have families to feed. Like, you make it, like, do you know what I mean? Not in like I'm not trying to be dismissive or something, but you have to you have to make it work somehow. Like, whether it's going to the Isle of Man, like my friend is in the Isle of Man as a pharmacist locally. She's earning more than like doctors earn in London. She traveled, like she did it. She's like, I have to go. Like, there's no, like, sometimes you just have to go, like, go to Ireland or something. Like, it's so sad. It's rubbish. Like, I don't agree that this is what should be happening, but if it's that much of a desperate situation, like you can't get a clinical fellow job, like locums in your hospital are really hard to find, then like, baby girl or baby boy, you're gonna have to go to Northern Ireland or something, you know what I mean? Like,
but also consider like non-clinical options. Exactly. So again, like teaching fellow jobs, most university towns will have them, and also research. So when I had my PhD, but I remember looking at them because I started getting emails about them from like Imperial when I was leaving. Loads of medical schools offer PhDs with salaries to people, like even at sort of, I know people who've done them after F1, after F2.
Oh, amazing.
So even like things like that, or again, like doing degrees, etc. Obviously those require money, and you can get like scholarships, etc. But thinking laterally, if you cannot find a clinical job, there are non-clinical things that you can do that will still progress your career.
Come to tech. Join me in tech.
Ooh.
You'll enjoy it there. It's hard to get into, but you'll get there. I can help you. I'll help you. But no, this has been such a good episode.
It's been so good having you.
I love people who are doing different things, who like to try new things. That's like, it's my drug.
So eclectic. So cool.
No, I think it's audacious.
It literally sounds
and I love
more
that.
interesting than I am. I just really like going out.
No, you are interesting.
That's the key to
You need
life.
to know.
I just like having fun, and I think, with work and with what life is like, finding opportunities to like just laugh and dance can be very healing, I think.
It is.
Yeah.
We need to live. Collectively, we just need to start living. Enjoying life.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for listening, and thank you for coming on as our guest.
Thank you for having me.
It's been amazing.
Check us out on socials, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, everywhere. We're everywhere.
We are everywhere. And please tune in for our next episode. Send through your Dear Doctor questions. We're here to answer these queries, puzzles and entanglements you might have gotten yourself into.
Not entanglements. But we'll catch you on the next episode.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.